Hello, everyone. Thanks for listening to Wake Up, Look Up, a podcast where we connect events happening in real time to the gospel of Jesus Christ. I'm Zach Wyrock. And in today's episode, we're asking the question, should you buy community? It's prompted by an article in The Atlantic called Please Tell Me What to Do by Olga Kazan. It's about life coaching, which is a trend or industry now that is on the rise. And the author writes from her own experience of having to make some major decisions in life, feeling inadequate or incapable of doing so, and then paying someone to actually tell her what to do. It's interesting that this trend of life coaching is on the rise because it's incredibly expensive. It's one of the things the article pursues, that you have to pay a lot of money for this, and there are no real qualifications. I mean, there's life coaching is not something you get a degree to do, as though when you graduate at 22 and you've taken a few classes, you're now qualified to tell a 42-year-old how to navigate a 15-year marriage or raising children or any of those kinds of things. It's one of those things where it's tough to know when someone's qualified, but not tough to know that they're going to charge you a lot of money. It's also connected to a decline in traditional methods of support. People increasingly are turning less and less to their parents or to their friends or to their faith community in order to make decisions. We're becoming more and more isolated and more used to paying for things. So it just makes sense that the advice we might have at one time gotten from a friend over coffee, we now get from an employee. We're also moving to a culture that believes in therapy a great deal. And life coaching is kind of adjacent. I'm going to say kind of because psychiatrists and psychologists actually go to a lot of school and do have a lot of training. Life coaches tend not to. But if I ask someone to help me navigate my anger, why not ask someone to help me navigate my career choices? The reason why this is interesting to me is because in life coaching, people are paying for something that was always meant to be free, something that God intended to provide them through a local church. That in some part, people are paying for life coaching because they have stepped outside of God's design for them and they're not part of a local church. Where, for example, in the book of Titus, older men and older women are told to pour into the lives of younger men and younger women. That is what the Bible means, by the way, when it talks about discipleship. That's one of those words that I worry has taken on a whole meaning that the first century they just wouldn't have thought of. When we think of discipleship, we tend to think of reading theology books or taking theology classes, and certainly growing in our understanding of who God is and how he's revealed himself in the Bible is an important part of discipleship. But when an older mother helps a younger mother figure out how to keep her toddler in bed at night, that is discipleship. It is figuring out how to do the thing that God has called you to do to the glory of God and to the good of, in this case, your toddler. We have to stop labeling discipleship with theology and start thinking of it as real people helping real people do life. That's what's meant to be happening in the local church. Now, I don't mean to imply it always is happening. What tends to happen is older women in church hang out with older women, and younger women in church hang out with younger women. And in so doing, they both deprive themselves of the community that God wanted them to have. And so they go pay for something that God has actually called them to do for each other. This is what Paul means in Galatians 6, by the way, when he says that we should bear one another's burdens and so fulfill the law of Christ. Because the thing is, I just was at breakfast this morning with a guy younger than me, younger father. When I'm helping him, that's what it means to bear his burdens. We're talking about college, about whether you buy the teenager the car or you have them raise money for it. And when I left that breakfast, we had discipled each other. for free. Well, I guess we paid for breakfast, but you get my point. That's what God wants us doing for each other. And you might not feel qualified to read a theology book with someone or to teach a theology class, but I bet there are a lot of ways, whether it's managing money, whether it's buying a home, changing your job, dating, getting married, raising kids. I bet there's a lot of things that you can actually help people with, and a lot of things you're looking for help in. Instead of paying for them or Googling them, why don't you show up at your local church and make a friend? Why don't you go to your pastor or pastors and say, I'm looking for an older person or younger person who can help me or who I can help. Let's reclaim discipleship. And then let's take all the money that we were going to spend on life coaching and give it to the kingdom. Let's reach more lost people, be in better community, and be growing in our faith all at the same time. Doesn't that sound good? Well, life usually is good in God's design. Hey, thanks so much for watching this episode of Wake Up, Look Up. While you're here, take a minute to like and subscribe. It really helps us get the word out. Don't hesitate to leave a review wherever you might find this podcast on an audio level and help spread the word. And hey, while you're here, check out all the other content we have at Christ Community Chapel on YouTube. Some of those videos are popping up on the screen now. Click on one.